Title: The Never-Ending Nightmare. Main story: Sam Jordan and Michelle Davis had been friends since childhood. They grew up in Chicago and attended different universities, but they still managed to keep in touch. Sam had just graduated from UCL University, while Michelle had graduated from Stanford University. They decided to spend their summer break together in Sam's apartment in Chicago. One day, Sam received a parcel from an anonymous person. Inside the parcel, he discovered a special, strange ornate box. It was covered in intricate carvings and symbols, and it felt cold to the touch. Sam was intrigued by the box, but he couldn't figure out what it was for. He called Michelle to come over and take a look at it. Michelle arrived at Sam's apartment, and he showed her the strange box. She was immediately intrigued and asked Sam where he got it. Sam told her that it was from an anonymous person and that he didn't know what it was for. They decided to investigate the box together. After a few days, strange things began to happen. They would hear strange noises coming from the box at night, and the room would become unnaturally cold. They tried to ignore it, but it only got worse. They began to have nightmares about the box, and they would wake up in the middle of the night, feeling like something was watching them. One night, Sam woke up to find the box had opened by itself. He couldn't believe his eyes as he watched the contents of the box come to life. The carvings on the box began to glow, and strange, shadowy figures emerged from the box. Sam and Michelle were frozen in fear as the shadowy figures started to move towards them. They tried to run, but the shadowy figures were too fast. They chased Sam and Michelle through the apartment, and they could hear their terrifying laughter echoing through the halls. Sam and Michelle managed to hide in the bathroom, but they knew it wouldn't be long before the shadowy figures found them. Just as they were about to give up hope, the box suddenly closed, and the shadowy figures disappeared. Sam and Michelle were left shaking and terrified, but they knew they had to destroy the box. They managed to find a way to destroy it, and they never spoke of it again. But the nightmare was not over yet. A few days later, they received a package in the mail with a note that read, "You may have destroyed the box, but you can never escape its curse." They knew then that they were never truly safe and that the horror would never end. Sam and Michelle were shaken by the note, and they realized that they had unknowingly unleashed something much more powerful than they could handle. They spent the next few days researching about the box and its origins, but to no avail. All they could gather was that it was a cursed object and they were now in grave danger. The nights grew colder and darker as the weeks went by. They could feel a malevolent presence in the room, watching them from the shadows. Michelle's beautiful red hair started to lose its shine, and she became pale and sickly. Sam was haunted by nightmares of the shadowy figures chasing him, and he could feel their icy touch even when he was awake. One night, as they were trying to fall asleep, they heard a loud banging on the door. Sam got up to see who it was, but there was no one there. He shrugged it off and went back to bed, but the banging continued, getting louder and more persistent. As they got up to investigate, they saw that all the windows and doors were locked from the inside. The banging grew louder and more intense, and they realized that the curse of the box had caught up with them. They were trapped in their own apartment, with no way out. The room grew colder and darker, and they could hear whispers and murmurs coming from the shadows. They tried to call for help, but their phones were dead, and they were cut off from the world. They knew then that they were alone and that the curse had consumed them. In a last-ditch effort, they tried to destroy the box once and for all. They found a way to open it, but as they did, a blinding light erupted from within, and they were sucked into it. They were transported to another dimension, a place of eternal darkness and despair. They realized then that they had fallen into the trap of the cursed box, and there was no way out. They were doomed to suffer for eternity, trapped in a never-ending nightmare of their own making. The curse had claimed them, and they would never be free. In this otherworldly dimension, Sam and Michelle were tormented by the same shadowy figures that had emerged from the cursed box. They were surrounded by darkness and despair, and there was no escape from the relentless pursuit of their tormentors. As they wandered through the endless abyss, they saw glimpses of their former lives, memories that seemed like a distant dream. They realized then that they had taken their ordinary lives for granted and that they had underestimated the power of the cursed box. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, and Sam and Michelle lost all sense of time. They could feel their sanity slipping away as they were tormented day and night by their demons. The shadowy figures would appear in their dreams and taunt them with their darkest fears and desires, driving them further into madness. But then something unexpected happened. One day, as they were walking through the darkness, they saw a faint light in the distance. It was a glimmer of hope, a chance for redemption. They realized that they had to follow it, no matter the cost. They walked towards the light, and as they got closer, they saw that it was a portal, a gateway to another dimension. They knew that this was their chance to escape the curse of the box and the nightmare that had consumed them. They stepped through the portal, and they found themselves back in their own world, in their own apartment. They looked at each other, and they realized that they had been given a second chance. They knew that they had to destroy the cursed box once and for all. They gathered all their strength and courage and opened the box. They saw the shadowy figures emerge once again, but this time, they were prepared. They fought them with all their might, and they managed to destroy them one by one. As the last shadowy figure dissolved into nothingness, the curse of the box was lifted, and they were finally free. They knew then that they had been given a second chance, and they vowed to never take their ordinary lives for granted again. They destroyed the cursed box and vowed to never speak of it again. But they knew that they would never forget the horror that they had faced, and they would always be haunted by the memories of the cursed box. Despite their best efforts to forget, Sam and Michelle could never completely shake off the memories of the cursed box. They would often wake up in a cold sweat, reliving the horrors of the otherworldly dimension. But they were grateful for the second chance they had been given and made the most of it. But then, one day, Sam received a strange package in the mail. He opened it, and to his horror, he saw that it was another ornate box. He tried to warn Michelle, but it was too late. The curse had caught up with them once again. They found themselves back in the otherworldly dimension, surrounded by darkness and despair. They knew then that they had underestimated the power of the cursed box, and they were trapped once again. But this time, they were prepared. They knew what they had to do to break the curse. They fought back with all their might, using their newfound knowledge and experience to destroy the shadowy figures once and for all. As they emerged from the otherworldly dimension, they knew that they had broken the curse once and for all. They destroyed the cursed box and vowed to never speak of it again. But deep down, they knew that the memory of the cursed box would haunt them for the rest of their lives. They realized then that some things were too powerful to be destroyed, and some memories were too painful to forget. They knew that they had been given a second chance, and they vowed to use it wisely. They would never take their ordinary lives for granted again, and they would always be prepared for whatever horrors may come their way. They tried to ignore the feeling and focus on their new life, but it was no use. The nightmares kept coming back, and they found themselves waking up in cold sweat every night. They knew that they had to do something to end this nightmare once and for all. They started researching about the cursed box, and they discovered that it was a powerful artifact that had been used in ancient rituals. They realized then that the only way to break the curse was to return the box to its rightful place and perform a ritual to break the curse. They traveled to a remote village in the mountains, where they found the ancient temple where the box was originally kept. They performed the ritual, and to their relief, they felt the curse being lifted. They knew then that they had finally broken the curse and put the horror of the box behind them. Years went by, and Sam and Michelle grew old together. They never forgot the horror that they had faced, but they also never forgot the lessons they had learned. They lived every day to the fullest, cherishing every moment and never taking their ordinary lives for granted. As they lay on their deathbeds, they looked back on their lives and realized that they had lived a full life, filled with both joy and horror. They knew that they had been given a second and a third chance, and they had made the most of it. As they took their last breath, they smiled, knowing that they had finally put the horror of the cursed box behind them. They knew then that their story would serve as a warning to those who would underestimate the power of the unknown and the horrors that lay beyond. As Sam and Michelle passed away, their story became a legend, and the cursed box was never heard from again. The villagers in the mountains whispered tales of the cursed box, warning travelers to stay away from the ancient temple and never disturb the box. Years went by, and the tale of Sam and Michelle became a cautionary tale for those who seek out the unknown. The story became a warning that some things are better left untouched, and some mysteries are better left unsolved. But, as fate would have it, a new generation of curious adventurers stumbled upon the ancient temple in the mountains. They were thrill-seekers, and they were determined to uncover the mystery of the cursed box. They searched for the box in the temple, but it was nowhere to be found. They asked the villagers, but they were met with silence. It was as if the cursed box had vanished into thin air. But as they were about to leave, one of them stumbled upon a small, ornate box, hidden in a corner of the temple. They opened it, and to their horror, they found that it was the cursed box. As they tried to run away, they felt a dark presence surrounding them. They knew then that they had made a grave mistake. They were trapped, and the curse had caught up with them. The horror of the cursed box had returned, and the new generation of adventurers would soon face the same fate as Sam and Michelle. The cycle continued, and the cursed box claimed new victims with each passing generation. And so, the tale of the cursed box lived on, a warning to those who seek out the unknown and a reminder that some mysteries are better left unsolved. The cursed box remained hidden, waiting for its next victim to stumble upon it and awaken the horrors that lay beyond. The end.